Crossing the Rubicon.
If you are returning to the Classic Masterworks channel, welcome back. If you are new, please don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the bell notification so that you will be made aware of our latest content. And now, on with the story.
During the late Roman Republic, the river Rubicon marked the boundary between the Roman province of Cisalpine Gaul to the northeast and Italy proper to the south, which was directly controlled by Rome and its allies. The border on the northwest was demarcated by the river Arno, a wider and more significant waterway that flows westward from the Apennine Mountains into the Tyrrhenian Sea, and whose source is near that of the Rubicon. Pro-magistrates appointed by the Roman Senate served as governors of one or more provinces and were granted imperium, which gave them the right to command the Roman army within their territories. However, according to Roman law, only the elected magistrates, such as consuls and praetors, could hold imperium within Italy. Any magistrate who led troops into Italy would forfeit their imperium and would no longer be legally allowed to command troops. Violating this law was considered a capital offense, and obeying the commands of a general who lacked legal imperium was also punishable by death. If a general led an army into Italy, both the general and the soldiers were considered outlaws and automatically condemned to death. Thus, generals were required to disband their armies before entering Italy. Julius Caesar had been appointed to a governorship over a region that ranged from southern Gaul to Illyricum. Caesar was a very popular military and political leader who expanded the borders of the Roman Republic through what are today France, Spain, and the island of Britain. In years of campaigning, Caesar became one of the most brilliant and successful commanders in history. The huge, fearsome territory of Gaul was conquered and subdued in one of the most complete conquests in history. In his reflections on the campaign, Caesar later boasted that he had killed 1 million Gauls, enslaved 1 million more, and left only the remaining million untouched. An early master of propaganda, Caesar made sure that detailed and partisan accounts of his exploits made it back to Rome, where they made him the darling of the people in a city beset by infighting in his absence. The Senate had never ordered or even authorized Caesar to attack Gaul, but were wary of his popularity and extended his command by another 5 years when it ended in 53 BC. When Crassus died in 54 BC, the Senate turned to Pompey as the only man strong enough to withstand Caesar, who now controlled huge swathes of land in the north without any Senate backing. While Caesar mopped up his remaining foes, Pompey ruled as sole consul, which made him a dictator in all but name. He too was a famously brilliant commander, but was now aging while Caesar's star was in the ascendancy. As Caesar's term of governorship ended, the Senate ordered him to disband his army and return to Rome. In January 49 BC, Caesar, with a single legion, the Legio XIII, led an intentional breach of the law on imperium by crossing the Rubicon from Cisalpine Gaul to Italy. This event marked Caesar's ambition to march on towards Rome. Furthermore, this act made armed conflict inevitable. According to Roman historian Suetonius, Caesar was undecided as he approached the river, and he attributed the crossing to a supernatural apparition. Caesar's swift action forced Pompey, the consuls, and a significant portion of the Roman Senate to flee Rome. After the famous crossing into Italy on the 10th of January, Caesar reportedly dined with Sallust, Hirtius, Oppius, Lucius Balbus, and Sulpicius Rufus. Suetonius records Caesar's utterance of the famous phrase, alea iacta est, the die has been cast. When the news came, to Ravenna, where Caesar was staying, that the interposition of the tribunes in his favor had been utterly rejected, and that they themselves had fled Rome, he immediately sent forward some cohorts, yet secretly, to prevent any suspicion of his plan, and to keep up appearances. He attended the public games and examined the model of a fencing school which he proposed building, then, as usual, sat down to table with a large company of friends. However, after sunset some mules from a nearby mill were put in his carriage, and he set forward on his journey as privately as possible, and with an exceedingly scanty retinue. The lights went out. He lost his way and wandered about a long time, till at last, by help of a guide, whom he discovered towards daybreak, he proceeded on foot through some narrow paths, and again reached the road. Coming up with his troops on the banks of the Rubicon, which was the frontier of his province, he halted for a while, and revolving in his mind the importance of the step he meditated, he turned to those about him, saying, "Still we can retreat. But once let us pass this little bridge, and nothing is left but to fight it out with arms." Even as he hesitated, this incident occurred. A man of strikingly noble mien and graceful aspect appeared close at hand, and played upon a pipe. To hear him not merely some shepherds, but soldiers too came flocking from their posts, and amongst them some trumpeters. He snatched a trumpet from one of them and ran to the river with it, then sounding the advance, with a piercing blast he crossed to the other side. At this Caesar cried out, "Let us go where the omens of the gods and the crimes of our enemies summon us. The die is now cast." Accordingly he marched his army over the river. Then he showed him the tribunes of the plebs, who on being driven from Rome had come to meet him, and in the presence of that assembly, called on the troops to pledge him their fidelity, tears springing to his eyes, as he spoke, and his garments rent from his bosom. Crossing the river precipitated Caesar's civil war, which ultimately led to Caesar's becoming dictator for life, and marked the end of the Roman Republic. Today, the phrase, "crossing the Rubicon," is commonly used to refer to an individual or group committing to a risky or revolutionary course of action, similar to the phrase, "passing the point of no return." Thank you for watching. We hope you will join us again, here at Classic Masterworks.